All right, boys, today we are going to be going through my LCS 2022 Lock-In Tournament Power Rankings. Now, obviously, I have been ousted by certain members of the League of Legends community as an F-tier Power Rankings content creator. So, hey, you might not want to put too much weight into these rankings or whatever, but today I'm going to be going 10-1, ranking every team based on the relative strength I think they're going to have headed in to the 2022 LCS Lock-In Tournament. Now, obviously we're less than 2 weeks away from the start of this already, and I'm so excited for it. I think it's going to be so fun. But I did just want to have a quick disclaimer that this list is under the understanding or assumption that TSM will potentially not have their full starting lineup. I'm going to be doing this list under the assumption that Spica is going to stay in the United States and play lock-in, but the rest of the TSM team will continue boot camping. So I am going to be rating this with TSM's potential lineup of Viper, Spica, Takeover, Instinct, and Yursan. And then this lineup will also be under the assumption for Cloud9 that they will not have their Korean players, but the other players will return. So their lineup would then be Darshan, Blabber, Fudge, Sven, I don't know, I couldn't think of him, and either Winsome or Isles, depending on who they decide to go with there. So that is who, if you ask me today, I think would be playing for all these teams in the Lock-In Tournament. So I'm going to make that list with those assumptions. So definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate that a ton. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content, and consider checking out the first link in the description below for the new merch that we just dropped. With that being said, let's get right into this one. So starting out at number 10, I am going to be going with CLG. Now, if you guys saw my hot takes video, one of my hot takes for the year is that I do still think that CLG will probably, at least in my opinion, be the weakest team in the LCS throughout the 2022 season. We have Jenkins, who he looked pretty good for Team Liquid at times last year, but this CLG team is a far step down from that Team Liquid team last year. So how strong is he going to look with much weaker players all around him? Same question for Contracts. Contract was on Evil Geniuses. They were a pretty good team. How is he going to do with a big step down in competition? Especially when, later on in the LCS season and into playoffs, Contract started looking potentially not as strong. Palafox in the mid lane, who struggled last year. Luger, who's an academy player last year. And Poom, who also I don't necessarily believe is ready for an LCS shot yet at this point. So I think the CLG team is going young. They're developing. They're headed in the right direction, but I don't think they're going to be a very strong team headed into the Lock-In Tournament. At number 9, I wanted to go with Dignitas. I have a ton of questions about this team, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily love about them. Obviously, everyone knows the question of Blue in the mid lane, whether or not he deserves an LCS starting spot. I definitely don't think so. I think he might, be a little underrated at this point, and maybe he'll surprise some people in some ways, but, I don't necessarily think he's a good pick. I don't really love them picking up Biofrost either. I've never been a big fan of Fate God. I don't think he is that good, to be honest. I do think River's good. I think it's an interesting, nice pickup. We'll see how that goes. And then also, I think it's fair to ask some questions about Neo. He had a good year last year, but he was playing with Aphromoo, and Aphromoo has looked, a lot of his AD carries look better over the past couple of years, except for that one kind of randomly terrible year he had for 100 Thieves, I think it was. But he's made a lot of his other AD carries look better. So is Neo going to look worse with Biofrost, or is he still going to be a beast? I don't know. There's enough questions here for me to be a little bit skeptical of Dignitas. Next up at number 8, I'm going to put FlyQuest now. I don't really love this FlyQuest team either. The bottom 3 teams in the LCS, I think, are pretty clearly the bottom 3. I expect them to be the bottom 3 throughout the whole season. I think they are a significant step down from the next couple, teams in the pack above them. FlyQuest, I don't love this lineup. Kumo, we've seen him in the LCS for a while now. Never really been that impressed with him. Jose Diodo, I was really hyped up and excited to see him last year. I don't think he was that great. Tukoi, or however you say it in the mid lane, I think he'll be interesting. This guy, was an LFL MVP, I do believe, so he's coming in with some talent, some potential, but obviously he's a big question mark. Just because he was a good prospect doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be that good. And I do like the bot lane of Johnson and Aphromoo, but there's definitely questions about Johnson. I think Aphromoo should hopefully be a beast for this team, so that's kind of why I have FlyQuest above some of the teams below them, but we will have to wait and see. I just like I said, these bottom 3 teams, you could really put them in any order. If you mix and match these bottom 3 teams, I wouldn't argue with you too much. I'm not really that excited about any of them, but this is how I would rate them 10 through 8 if I had to. Next up at number 7, I'm going to be slotting in TSM here. Again, this is not confirmed by any means yet, but I am just, using the context clues, knowing that C9 has been having some visa issues and they are struggling and they're not expecting to have their full roster for the LCS lock-in tournament. And knowing that TSM, while they're not bringing in Korean players, they're bringing in Chinese players, I'm expecting TSM to have some of those same issues. And even if they don't have some of those issues, TSM has already talked a little bit about how they potentially might not bring their starting lineup to the lock-in tournament anyway, because they really, really value that Eastern boot camp. They want to spend as much time in Korea and China and over in the East as they can, scrimming other teams, playing the solo queue. They think that's more beneficial than coming to the lock-in tournament. So even if there is no visa issues at all, I think it's still very, very possible that TSM does not field their starting roster. But we also know that Spica is in the United States. Spica did not come with the team, so it is possible that Spica plays in the lock-in tournament. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I kind of expect him to play. But again, an Academy team plus Spica, I think would be kind of middle of the pack. Now, there are still some decent players. Again, Viper is a guy we've seen have some success in the LCS. Takeover is a prospect people are really, really excited about. Yursan, I think, is going to be good as well. Instinct, I don't know a lot about him, but I know that he was on 100 Thieves Next, and I know 100 Thieves has done overall a pretty good job at scouting younger talent, so I think this guy must at least have some, talent potential or something going on there. So I think TSM would be a little bit above these bottom three teams in the LCS, but again, it's still an Academy roster plus Spica, and maybe not even Spica. Maybe they would have to field the Academy jungler, which is Hyper right now. But, I don't know for sure. So TSM's kind of a hard team to rate, so I'm just going to put them at 7. Next up, at number 6, I'm going to be going with Golden Guardians. This is a team that I've talked about a little bit already, how I think they're underrated. I think people are sleeping on their solo laners of Licorice and Ablaze Olive a little bit. I think they're going to have a very, very good year, both those guys individually. I don't love all the moves they did. Pride Stalker is a big question mark for me. Ole kind of seems like a pretty random pickup as well, but I do think Lost was a good pickup. I think they're buying low on Lost. I think this is a guy with a ton of talent and potential. Yeah, it didn't work out with TSM. Maybe he's not ready to be on a TSM team that's, trying to go do stuff internationally. But as far as LCS AD carries go, I think Lost is still pretty good, especially for a team like Golden Guardians who doesn't have enough, doesn't have a ton of money to spend and everything. I think Lost for a cheap price tag is really, really good. And I think Golden Guardians is going to be a solid team because of moves like that. Next up, I'm going with Immortals at number 5. I like this team. Power of Evil Xerxes, that is 2 very, very solid pieces for, again, one of those non-top spending teams in the LCS to end up with players like this. That's great. I think these are big pickups. I think they're going to win a lot of games just with this mid-jung duo alone. I think, Xerxes being able to control the game and get Power of Evil the resources he needs to scale into that team-fighting monster, going to be great. Wild Turtle, another guy who, if you give him a chance to get those late-game fights, he can win you a game or 2 here or there. Revenge, I'm not the biggest fan of Revenge. I'm not super, super high on him, but he has some pop-off games every once in a while. He's also a grinder, and I know he's been doing a lot of stuff in the offseason, so maybe he'll come out this year and be a little bit better. And then Destiny, I don't necessarily love either, but, with these bottom 5 teams in the LCS, there's always, some issues and stuff. Again, we're talking about these cheaper kind of rosters and lineups, but especially with TSM being knocked down a peg, I'm moving Immortals up. I think Immortals is going to have a good tournament. I think they're going to be a strong team. Overall, I think they had a pretty good offseason. Now, at number 4, I'm going to be going with C9. Again, this is under the assumption that they go with Darshan, Blabber, Fudge, Sven, and either Winsome or Isles. I guess Winsome shouldn't hopefully have a chance, or shouldn't have a problem getting back into the United States since he is, I guess, an American citizen. But I don't know. This is tough for me. I think, C9 is going to have some issues. Fudge is role swapping. Who knows how that's going to go, especially right off the bat. Fudge also didn't get to go to Korea, didn't get to practice with the team and all that stuff. LS has already said, hey, don't have high expectations for us. We're going to struggle. It's not going to be pretty. So I do still think C9 is going to be a good team. I'm going to put them 4th. I'm not putting them below Immortals or Golden Guardians or anything like that. There's still a ton of talent on that team. They're still going to win some games. They're still going to be competitive. But I don't think they're going to be able to be super competitive with the top 3 teams that are facing much less issues than Cloud9 right now. At number 3, I'm going with Evil Geniuses. This is a very, very exciting team for me coming into the lock-in tournament. And it's a team that I think people are underrating. I really think people are underrating Evil Geniuses right now. Impact, Inspired, Vulcan. Those 3 players all have a chance to be the best player in their position in the LCS. Period. They all 3 have a chance to do that. I'm not saying they're all 3 going to be that. they're going to be in the conversation potentially. Inspired's an LEC MVP. Impact, he's been multiple time first team All-Pro before. Vulcan is always in that conversation, you know, with the guys like Sword Art and Core JJ and all those big names every single year. Those are three really, really nice pieces to build around. Danny, will he be able to carry the momentum from last year into this year? Is he going to have a sophomore slump? Who knows? And then how good is JoJo Pune? That's the million-dollar question at this point that everyone cannot wait to find out about and to get answered. But again, both those two younger players are set up for success with very, very talented veterans all around them. I love this roster building by Evil Geniuses with Peter Dunn at the helm. But they do still have, you know, a few too many question marks for me to slot them into the top two. And at number 2, I'm going to be going with 100 Thieves. I know a lot of people have them as the preseason favorites. A lot of people saying they're going to have a ton of success. I'm a little bit more pessimistic about 100 Thieves than some other people. Again, I don't think they were like dominant in the LCS last year, so since they kept their roster the same, I'm not going to slot them in as like the dominant number 1 team coming into the season. I think they're going to be a strong team. I think they're going to be title contenders in both spring and summer, but I don't have them as title favorites. I think they definitely had some weaknesses last year. You know, Closer in the playoffs took things to another level, but Closer in the playoffs was not how Closer played consistently throughout the whole season. He was good, but he became great, you know, for a little while in the playoffs and Worlds. So which version of Closer are we going to see? What version of Someday are we going to see? You know, is he going to be a monster, or is he going to be pretty pedestrian like we saw him be at times last year? How much is Tenacity going to play? How good is he going to look when he plays? I'm pretty confident that Abadage, FBI, and Huhi are all going to be very, very strong and very, very consistent. But I just have, you know, some questions about how good 100 Thieves is going to be this year, and if keeping the roster the same means they're going to improve year over year, stagnate, or maybe even get worse. I think is very, very possible. But at number 1, I have to go with Team Liquid. I know some people have questions about them. You know, how exactly is this roster going to work out? Is it, you know, super teams don't always work out? How good is Bjergsen going to be? How's Bwipo going to be back in the top lane? Is Santorin going to stay healthy? All of this stuff. And I think people just see a super, super good team, and they're finding ways to nitpick and finding ways to critique them, when I don't think you need to do that. I think this TL team is going to be strong. I have them as the lock-in tournament favorites. I don't think that means they're going to go undefeated. Maybe they don't even win their group, you know, who knows. But I think come those best of 5s, this team is too experienced, too good, too talented, too versatile to not be the preseason favorites. Again, that doesn't mean they're going to win the thing necessarily, but, you know, if you run this thing 10 times, I'm putting my money on TL to come out with the most victories in the end. I'm so excited to watch this team play. I've talked about previously how I think they have a chance to be the best team in LCS history, and I think that starts by coming out and making a statement in the lock-in tournament, which I fully expect them to do, because I think this team is very, very competitive. I don't think they're going to take it easy. I don't think they're going to say it doesn't matter. I think they're going to want to come out and prove people wrong right off the bat and prove that they are a super team, not, you know, a wannabe super team. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong, or what your power rankings look like headed into the lock-in tournament. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Check out that first link in the description below for the new merch. Hopefully I catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.